What up? It's Jack, aka Just a Cunt here, and today I wanted to rank all the current UFC weight divisions from worst to best. Let's get right into it, starting off with welterweight. Now, this for many, when we get to these, I feel like there's a handful at the top that people, are going to be more or less interested to. This is going to be a very opinionated video, of course, It's about the favorite weight division, essentially, through mixtures of competition, interesting matchups, scheduled fights, etc. But at the top of the list, I'm starting off with welterweight. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is I feel welterweight has the most untapped potential. When I think about the fights that are currently going on and going to go on, I feel the list is the longest by far. JDM versus Islam is, after DDP versus Hamza, is going to be the most interesting fight scheduled. And I think it is quite underrated. But even going past that, we have Shavkat, Sean Brady, Ian Gary, Kamaru Usman, Bilal Muhammad, Leon Edwards, Michael Morales. Even guys like MVP can go up and down. There's so many fun fights that I feel like that I'm thinking about, that are going to happen with JDM and Islam, and thinking about what could happen with Leon, or what was like Shavkat versus Sean Brady, Leon Edwards versus Ian Gary, Michael Morales versus one of these guys, Jeff Neal, Carlo Prates on this card as well. It's such a fight card that has the perfect, to me, lightweight used to have the best balance of action and skill. Right now, I feel that's welterweight. I feel like it has a really good mix of strikers like JDM with pure grapplers like Sean Brady, and then like good well-rounded guys like Bilal, Islam. A lot of guys, there's so many different styles. I feel like everyone could have a favorite fighter in this division and still have, we still know who's going to be the best in this division right now. JDM could beat Islam, could beat another guy, or could lose to Islam, and then Islam could, go back to lightweight, or can give up the belt, and it's a new, I feel like this is like the right before we figure out who's actually the best and the worst, that makes it the most exciting. That point where it's like lightweight before everyone started fighting each other. We're like, well, does some Poirier beat Conor? Does Conor beat all, this? And then now we're at the point where it's like, okay, we kind of know who's like the best and worst guys from that lot. Moving on though, middleweight. This is the biggest comeback, I feel, of any UFC division. Going from the Israel Adesanya reign, which was interesting for sure. Oh, fuck. I'll let that on post. That's the most, that was interesting in terms of Adesanya being like a great, and putting on his legacy, having some interesting beefs. But fuck me, it just bro, when it was Marvin Vettori, Jared Cannonier, Paul, like Marvin Vettori, Yoel, Whitaker, all these fights were ass. There was one or two good fights, like Alex Pereira. As soon as he made this debut, that was the start of all right, let's get fucking Adesanya out of here, bro, because he was so fucking boring, man. I don't want to shit on Adesanya a lot. It's kind of overdone a little bit, but in terms of, comparing it to now, there's certain times where you don't know how good you had it, and there's other times where you don't know how bad you had it, because with the introduction of Alex Pereira, who was so dangerous in one aspect of the game, but it was, so bad in the other, him as champion was interesting. Adesanya getting the belt back, Strickland getting the belt, then DDP, and now Hamzat. Now we got Cabral, Mavov, Hernandez, RDR, Whitaker. It's to me, it's a step down from welterweight, because I feel like after Hamzat, DDP, a lot of the fights get kind of not as interesting as I am for welterweight, and I think we do have an idea how good it is, but maybe it's just a recency bias with, tomorrow DDP and Drick is fighting in one of the most anticipated fights of all time. I don't know, to me this card is just so goofy, but so brutal. RDR Whitaker was a great fight. DDP's fights are pretty fucking solid. Even even Hamza, his X factor here. Everyone has a thing where it's a lot of fighters I feel do good against each other. I think Imavov can do good against these guys, but I also think Imavov loses Strickland. I think Strickland, there's so many wrenches in here that I feel we're seeing the turn of the new guard, that we're still at the very exciting phase, which is a theme you're gonna see throughout here. Moving on though, lightweight. Has lightweight fallen off? I don't want to say it's fallen off, but I remember when lightweight was the premier division. It was lightweight with Habib, Gaethje, Connor, Tony Ferguson, and then slowly, like, it didn't really fall off. But when, like you said, still Oliveira, Islam came out, there's still Chandler, there's Arman. But now that we've hit that point where Oliveira had his title reign, Islam had his title reign, we've kind of seen all the matchups, and there's not as much here. But Ilya definitely, like, ignites this division, not necessarily because of, like, who he goes against the contenders, because right now I feel like no one's really hyped about Paddy or Gaethje or Arman. Like, there's not a guy that people are, like, super hyped about. But they're still really highly competitive, highly skilled. Ilya versus Arman is interesting. Paddy, he still has potential. Gaethje can, has, like, the type of power style to, maybe upset some guy. I feel this division, for what it lacks in hype, it still has in potential. It still has some young guys like Rufi. Still has, like, some interesting vets like Badil Narish. I feel like a good weight division needs a good vet. A good Anthony Smiths to the, long reigning champ. That's what you kind of need, that style there to kind of mix it up. So I feel lightweight still is, like, one of the most skilled divisions. Islam kind of leaving kind of puts a dent in it, but there's still Max Holloway now. There's some interesting fights to be made here, but the main thing is that, Ilya's, like, reign in terms of trying to get to Islam, but that might go up to welterweight, which if Islam wins and Ilya moves up to welterweight, we like, it just, everything's happening there. But nonetheless, so moving on, flyweight, man. I was kind of nervous when Pantoja became champion, not because I felt that he was boring, but, like, to me, it was like, okay, was he going to fight Brandon Royval? But with how dominant he's been, like, was compared to how he did against Moreno, where he very much scraped by an incredibly close decision and had some close fights and, kind of made it interesting with Royval. He's really turned it up the last couple fights, and he's really making it exciting to remember, like, having, like, a new dominant champion, and then really Joshua Van, Tatsuro Taira, these guys kind of making some interesting fights. Where I think Joshua Van Pantoja is the first time that people's really been excited for a title fight, even since maybe Figueiredo Moreno. Which even then, I feel like it was kind of like, it felt like a fight that the UFC was trying to artificially make super big. But, like, sometimes, like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I haven't seen, like, Pantoja versus Van. Like, I haven't seen that level of hype for a title fight since Pantoja Moreno, Moreno Figueiredo. Since, like, those fights, I feel like that's the last time it was really, like, super interesting watching these guys fight. But I think Pantoja and Van are really making an effort to make this division really interesting. Now, it may fall off after that, because after Pantoja retires, and that's gonna be like Van, there's not enough prospects to really boost this up. But I think, like, the next couple matches up are really interesting. Moving on, though, featherweight. I don't know what it is, man. This division has, like, the makings of being super cool, but I feel like we need, like, one or two more fights in this division to move it on for it to really... I think we have to get past Volk. I don't want to say Volk is holding back this division, because it's still, like, interesting to see how great he's going to be. But he's at the stage now where when the champion can lose and not like, be too shocking, it puts a timer on the division. We know Volk is either going to retire or lose. Not because he's not good enough to beat these guys, but because he's hitting that age. He's in the lighter divisions. We know Volk is going to, get knocked out by Gene Silva or lose a boring decision to, like, Evloev, or just not feel the same. So while it is interesting to see him facing, like, a Lerone Murphy or an Evloev or a Gene Silva or one of these guys next, as long as it's not Yair fucking Rodriguez, and it's, like, how great he's going to be, and it's going to be very hype seeing it. I do think Volk is, like, hitting a time where it's, like, it's kind of like when Stipe was champion and facing, like, Ngannou. It's like, we knew he was kind of getting to that age where it's like, okay, he beat DC, but now it's like, all right, well, it's time to move on. So I think as soon as, like, we get past Volk, we appreciate Volk, we enjoy that moment, now it's kind of that point where it's like, okay, who's going to be the next guy? So I feel like that's what this division, it's, and we lost Holloway, we lost Ilya, we lost a lot of guys that, made this division kind of how it was, but, it is what it is. Moving on, though. My God, I remember when Bantamweight was my favorite division, man. This shit was so good, but it's not that, like... It's not that Corey doesn't have a chance. It's not that it's just, like, the last interesting fight was Umar Marab, where I feel like the other fights have been anticlimactic. After this is Peter Yan, and that's, like, that's interesting, but it's like, and there's not a lot of I feel like this it lost it had its moment. And now it's kind of in this phase where it's like, okay, Marav's going on his run. It's kind of similar to when Adesanya was there, where like the new guys were there, the old guys were out, but it's like, no Jose Aldo, no Aljamain Sterling. We didn't get to see Aljamain Sterling Marav. And Marav's interesting and he's fun. He's definitely a fun fighter. But like, I don't know how many people are like, oh my god, bro, Corey Sandhagen is gonna flying knee him. I feel like most people are like, yeah, Corey has a chance, but Marav's probably gonna fuck him up. But nonetheless, moving on. Tommy Aspinall, man. I wanted to put him higher, man, but if the Jones fight was going on, this might be like right under lightweight, maybe above Pantoja. But in terms of just Tom Aspinall is so likable, and he has the drama from the Jones beef that his next couple fights are always going to be interesting because it's going to be that question of like, could he have beaten Jones, or was he like, or if he loses to like Cyril Gane, it's just gonna be like, okay, who cares? He would have lost to John Jones anyway, so like, who gives a fuck? But if he dominates Cyril Gane, knocks him out in the round, knocks out Jailton Almeida, goes on a run, that's kind of where that hype is. Is like the hype is like, how good is Aspinall gonna be? That's kind of the interest here, where no one gives a fuck about the contenders. Like, no one cares. Almeida's the next guy that's like kind of interesting, but no one gives a fuck. But what's going on with light heavyweight, man? I don't know what it is, bro. I just can't give a fuck. I love Magomed. He's so funny to me, bro. But, like, maybe I'm just ragging on and you can put this above some, but, like, Carlos Ulberg, Dominic Reyes, he's making it interesting. Like, if Dominic Reyes gets that win, then it's going to be like, oh, shit. Dominic Reyes, Magomed, is Dominic Reyes going to get the belt back? That's kind of where it makes it interesting, but to me, light heavyweight has a good champion. Pereira's he's going to retire soon. Hill's not that good. Khalil Roundtree's Yuri's still interesting. There's still some fun here. I think the sport's in a good spot right now, but there's no storylines here that carry it. It's just like, oh, we know Yuri's not as good as Alex, so it's like, even if he like beats Magomed, it kind of makes it weird. So it's like, I guess Magomed's title run's going on right now, and then maybe Dominic Reyes could have a fun storyline. But nonetheless, though, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys like this little warm-up before tomorrow. When to get something out there before we get the fucking best fight in UFC history. Real quick. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys had fun. And yeah, have a good one.